Hey there! In today's video, I'm going to clear up some of the confusion you've been asking about when it comes to layering images in the Picture Elements card. I'll break it down step by step and show you the do's and don'ts so you can master this feature and take your dashboards to the next level. So let's dive right in. Hey everyone! I've noticed some of you have been having trouble getting your dashboards to work properly, and the issue often comes down to the order of the image layers. Specifically, the images that show whether a room's light is on or off, and the switches that control those lights. If you're curious about how I built this dashboard from scratch, make sure to check out the video I made on it. I'll leave the link here. Alright, let's get started. The first thing we need to do is add a Picture Elements card to the dashboard. Once the card is added, I'll remove the default state badge, and the first element we'll add is the base image, the floor plan with all the lights off. To do this, I'll click on the card options and insert the image path for the floor plan. This base image will act as the foundation and won't have any actions tied to it. So step 1 is done. We've added the base image. Next, let's add the image for the living room lights on. To do this, I'll add a conditional element and name it living room. I'll add the living room entity and set the condition so that its state is equal to on. Then I'll insert an image element that represents the lit room. I'll insert the image path and set the width to 100% because this image is exactly the same size as the base image. It's transparent except for the part where the living room lights are on. Let's save that and test it. If I turn the living room light on, the room will light up on the dashboard. This works because the image is shown conditionally based on the state of the living room light. When the light is on, the image appears. When it's off, the image disappears. Back in the configuration, there's one more important step. Set the tap behavior and hold behavior to nothing for these images, since they won't be used to trigger any actions. And that's it for the second layer. The living room light on image is now in place. Let's keep building. Now, let's add a button to turn the living room light on and off. To do this, I'll add an image element to the Picture Elements card. I'll select the living room entity and name the element Living Room Switch. Next, I'll set the tap behavior to toggle, so tapping the button will switch the light on or off. I'll leave the hold behavior as the default setting. Then, I'll insert the switch image path and adjust its size and location to make sure it's positioned exactly where I want it. Let's test it out. It works perfectly. The button toggles the living room light on and off as expected. And that's it for the third step. We've successfully added the living room switch to the dashboard. Now let's add another room to the dashboard, the kitchen. To do this, I'll add another conditional element and name it Kitchen. I'll set a condition by selecting the kitchen entity and configuring it to display the element when the state is on. Next, I'll add an image element and insert the path for the image of the kitchen with the lights on. I'll set the width to 100%, just like the living room image, because it's the same size as the base image. Most of the image is transparent, except for the kitchen area, which shows the lights on. Let's test it. First, I'll toggle the living room switch. It works perfectly, turning the light on and off. Now I'll turn on the kitchen light, and there it is. The image of the lit kitchen appears on the dashboard. But now, let me click the living room switch again. Uh-oh, it doesn't work. I get an error. No entity provided for info dialog. So why is this happening, you ask?
Why is this happening?
It's because the kitchen image layer is covering the entire screen, including the living room switch layer. When the kitchen light is on, its image appears on top of the switch. So when I try to click the living room switch, I'm actually clicking on the kitchen image instead. We'll need to fix that. Let me show you how to resolve this issue next. One solution to fix this issue, and probably the easiest, is to configure all the images of the rooms with the lights on first, and only then configure each switch for each room. This way, the room images will always be underneath the switches. Let me show you how to do it. First, I'll go back to the configuration and duplicate the image element for the switch. Since it's the same image, size, and location, I'll leave everything as it is. Now, if I go back, you'll notice that a new image element for the switch has been created after the conditional element for the kitchen light-on image. This ensures that the switch is placed on top of the kitchen image layer. Next, I'll delete the original switch image from before, as it's no longer needed. And just like that, the layers are now in the correct order. Let's test it. I can turn the living room light on and off while the kitchen light is off. No issues so far. Now, let me turn the kitchen light on. Let's see if I can still control the living room light. Yes, it works perfectly. That's because the kitchen image is no longer covering the switch. For this video, I've kept it simple with just 2 rooms to demonstrate the process and keep things short. But if you're working on a full dashboard, you'll need to configure all your room images first for lights on, followed by all the switches in the same way. Your final setup should look something like this. A first group containing all the conditional elements for the rooms with the lights on. A second group containing all the image elements for the switches. There's also another way to avoid this layering problem. You can use images that are cropped to represent only the specific room instead of using full screen images. To do this, you'll need to prepare individual images for each room, resize them, and set their exact location on the base image. Let me show you how it's done. First, I'll go back to the configuration and duplicate the kitchen conditional element. Next, I'll update the image path to an image I've already prepared and uploaded. It's specifically cropped to only show the kitchen. Now comes the precise part. I'll enter the exact size and location to align the kitchen image perfectly with the base image. This step might take a bit of trial and error, but I already know the values for this example, so I'll go ahead and enter them. Once that's done, I'll save the changes and check if the image is in the right position. Perfect. It's exactly where it should be. Now, I'll delete the previous kitchen image since I no longer need it. Let's test everything. The kitchen light is on and the image is displaying correctly. Let me click on the living room switch to make sure it still works. Yes, it works perfectly. The reason this works is that the kitchen image is no longer a full screen layer. It's cropped to the size of the kitchen itself. Even though it's in a layer above the switch, it doesn't cover the switch because it only occupies the kitchen area. Alright, that wraps up today's tutorial. I hope this helped you take your Home Assistant dashboard to the next level. If you found this video useful, don't forget to give it a thumbs up and share it with others who might need a little help with their setup. And if you haven't already, make sure to subscribe to the channel and hit the notification bell so you don't miss out on any future tips, tricks, and tutorials. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video. Happy automating!